Hey, so I don't know about you all, but I'm realizing more and more that this world is really messed up. I was reading an article earlier this week about 100 and something young ladies who were stolen from their families, from their friends in the university in another continent. And earlier today, it's weird. It's like God says, okay, cool, you're all prayed up and ready for this thing. It's going to be fun. Like yesterday, I wrote the sermon out. So this morning, it's like just prayer walking, hanging out, prayer walk. I kept running into Pastor Jared. And finally, we're like, all right, let's just pray together and talk about stuff. Like, we're like, God's going to do awesome things. Then I'm talking to students and people here, and you're talking about how my grandfather just had a heart attack, or this person in my life just got arrested because of something they might not have done or did. And it's just, I don't know, people's lives really seem to be messed up. People seem to really be going through things. And so I just want to open up tonight instead of with the normal. It just keeps happening, but that's a good thing. Instead of my opening, I just want to pray really quick for you all, for your families, for my family, for our world, because our world's really messed up, y'all. It really, really is, and we're powerless to fix it. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to come before you today and say that you are good and that your steadfast love endures forever. At the same time, God, it's really hard to see that you're a loving God. It's really hard to see that you're in control when this world seems to be so chaotic. So Lord, I pray for those who are coming in here today and they just don't feel like being here because they don't feel like you're real. I pray for those who are here right now but their mind is somewhere else. Lord, I pray for the students who are desperately trying to cling on to their salvation, trying to cling on to the hope of the gospel. Lord, I pray for the volunteers who are dealing with kids who they just don't know how to reach. Lord, I pray for myself right now, Lord, in the fact that, God, I'm tasked to do something that is outside of my ability. And that is something called pointing people to you, which just, it's weird. All I do is point to how messed up I am and how you've come through. And God, I pray that tonight as we sit here and encounter the Lord, we will let go of what's going on outside of these walls and simply focus on what you're doing in our lives, what you're speaking into us, Lord. I pray that you would reveal yourself to us, Lord. I pray that your Spirit would come into this room and that, God, it would wash hearts, Lord. It would heal us, and God, it would rejuvenate us and prepare us to go out and be your light, not to try and shine bright, but to simply be a light, to be in your presence, to be salt and light in a world that is hurting, that's broken. So God, I thank you for the opportunity to come before you and just to get real with my friends and my family. In your son's precious name. Amen. Amen. All right, how many of y'all are going on spring break next week? Anybody? Alicia County? Alicia County? Okay, all right, that's like 6 of you. Some of you will be missed. Some of you. All right, in Seminole County, you guys have got 2 weeks, right? Anybody from Seminole County here going on spring break? Yes, yes? Homeschool people, do y'all get spring break?
If you want it, you already had it. You already had it.
You had it? Yeah. So how does that work out? You just kind of, I don't feel like working this week, so I'm just going to go home. Is that how it works? I really don't remember. I was homeschooled for 2 years, and I don't remember ever getting spring break. Maybe that's just because my memory's bad. I don't know. But like one of the things I noticed when I go on spring break is, I go on spring break, especially when I got into high school and college, and I realized that it's not enough. You ever thought this question to yourself? Wait, hang on. No, we're not going to go to it? Go ahead. There you go. Yeah, where did you go? It's just not enough, right? Like, you spend all this time, not all this time, it's like 6 days, maybe 7 days. When you get to college, it's not even 7 days. It's your teacher saying, hey, we want you to have all these assignments turned in the week prior to it. And so you finally get there, or you get to grad school, and they say, hey, by the way, this assignment is due, and I've got a bunch of papers that you need to turn in, and the week of spring break, you're going to get ready for a test, and you come back. Like, hold on, there's no class. I know you got to learn it for yourself. Oh, okay. I really feel like, for me, I would always say that spring break, the time they gave me away to kind of unplug and relax was never enough. Anybody else feel that way? Yeah? Yes? You will. Just give it a week, or give it 2 weeks. You'll get to Friday and be like, Lord, what happened to the time? I just played Fortnite for 20 hours straight, and all I ate was Cheetos, and I got no sleep. But sometimes, maybe it's not you that thinks about school, or it's maybe that person, this is me in middle school. I would go on break. It never happened until I was in 7th grade. I think 7th grade. I would go on break, and then I realized, probably like day 3, I missed my friends. Really, it's probably like I missed the girl I had a crush on, but I felt like I missed my friends, and I was just like, this is so depressing. This is so sad. It was only 7 days. It's only 7 days. Now, maybe for you, you're not thinking, okay, spring break is not enough. Maybe you say it's not enough when this right here comes into life. Food. Now, I'm just getting warmed up. You just wait. So here's a little story. All about how my life got twisted upside down. Some of y'all are going to get that. But so Last week, I went to PDQ, and I eat quite often. My girlfriend says I'm always hungry. I'm not always hungry. It's just most of the time. Most of the time, I'm hungry. But not all the time. When I'm sleeping, yeah. But I went to PDQ, and I ordered my food, and I got grilled because I'm trying to eat healthy. Lies. You'll hear why it's a lie in a moment. Give me that two sentences. So I order the food grilled, and I look at this, and I say, I asked the lady, I said, don't lie to me, okay? Don't lie to me. Is this going to be enough food for me? And she said, what do you mean? I said, am I going to be hungry 45 minutes later? She looked me dead in the eye and said, yes. I said, double the order. Double the order. Because I realized that I don't want to get the food and then it just not be enough for me. I don't know, maybe I'm just the only person that's like that. Some of y'all, maybe you experienced it with this right here. Now, most of you don't have jobs. Most of you don't have jobs. But you'll go to purchase something with your parents' hard-earned money. Maybe your money as well as your babysitter or whatever. You go to buy something, and hopefully this doesn't happen to you, but let's be honest, it does happen. And you realize, oh, it's $10. I have $9.99. And that person's like, it's not enough. Like, what about the penny? That's mine. You're cutting my profit. Buy a penny, sir. It's still cutting my profit. I wouldn't be that person because I'd be like, sir, sorry, you need to leave. Go ahead. Or ma'am, just go ahead and leave. But you don't want to work with me? Not really. No, go ahead. Somebody else has $10 in 1 cent. I can get them for that. So, and you have that scope, right? Then there's the other side for when you get a job, and hopefully you don't have to go through this, but it might happen, where somebody says, hey, we're so excited, we want to hire you. Here's how much we're going to offer you. And you say, it's not enough. Not because you're being greedy, but because you say, look, I got to survive. I'm trying to eat on more than ramen noodles. I've got to put gas in the tank. Come on, I didn't go. Yeah! Sounds like people are on hard times over here. But you might say, you might find yourself saying, look, this is not enough. It's not enough for me. And if it's not money, I guarantee you, with the way society is going right now in America, just in the United States of America, because there's a lot of Americans, right? The United States of America, this right here is going to be something where somebody's going to say it's not enough. Your education. Amen. How would you say amen to that? Why would you celebrate? How would you celebrate that? You need prayer. Anyway. But the school system's not crashing, not yet, give it time. But a lot of people are starting to graduate from high school. They're graduating. That's really good, I'm proud of you. Graduate from high school, please. But they're going to college. In addition, they're going to college. And they're graduating, not just dropping out. All of a sudden, like, yeah, I went to college. I'm glad you went to college. You can get something out of college. I got a degree. Look at this right here. So people are getting educated. A lot of people have degrees and even upper level degrees. So much so that the market is saturated, which means there's a lot of people with it. And people are saying, you know what? Everybody's got a college degree. What makes you stand out? What makes you special? You're like, well, my mom said I'm special. I'm sure she did. Amen. The Bible told her to say that. She might have lied. So money, food, education, there's usually some aspect of our life where we catch ourselves saying or thinking. Some people, they don't say what they're thinking. They just think it. And they just start quiet like, it's not enough. But that leads me to ask another question. How do you know when it is enough? How do you know when you say, okay, you know what, I've had enough food, and not when like your button pops off, because that you went past it's enough to it's too much. All right, there's a natural border that says stop, and you went way past it. Not to where it's like, okay, hey, it's enough money to where you say, you know what, I need to make all the money in the world. And actually, the book we're going to talk about, which is Ecclesiastes, it talks about people who love money so much that their salary is never good enough. We're not talking about that today, or at all during the series. But how do we know in life when we say, okay, you know what? That's enough for me. It's enough. And why is it so hard for us to potentially answer the question for those really important things to us? Why? Well, I don't know. Someone's social experience and their acceptance of who you are. You're not married, so let's say your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your crush. Your crush's view of who you are, your grades, how much money you have, how many followers you have, how many likes you've gotten. How do you know when you can say, hey, you know what? It's good. I'm good. It's enough. Well, tonight we're going to talk about that. If you don't know Ecclesiastes, this is the book in the Bible. It comes right after Proverbs. And it's a great book. It's a weird book, I'm going to be honest with you. Really honest with you. The next two books we're going to go through, there's some weird stuff in there. You're going to look at it and say, whoa, wait. I know that they weren't supposed to do drugs in the Bible, but this just seems a little strange. It's weird. But don't worry, y'all. Just read it. It's only 13 chapters. Just read through Ecclesiastes as we go through it. You're going to look at it and say, okay, that's interesting, God. Why would you say that? What's the purpose behind it? But today, I'm going to give you a purpose behind something really simple. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. We're going to read verses 1 and 2, okay? Let the games begin. It says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Well, that sounds impressive. So what's going on here? All right, well, there's a preacher. It's assumed, it's thought, that the writer of Ecclesiastes is King Solomon. And the reason I say assumed, thought, most of these theologians say it's probably Solomon, is because the person who penned Ecclesiastes didn't write by Solomon or by this person, whatever. So they have to say, okay, well, let's look at the context. Let's look at what they say is going on. Let's look at their lifestyle, or at least what they talk about, and what king out of the line might line up with that. Well, Solomon is the one who lines up the best with it. And if you're wondering who King Solomon was, he was the third king of Israel, the son of David, pretty wise king. In fact, he was a balling king. Here's what happened with Solomon. When he was a young king, just stepping into power, God came to him and said, Solomon, my boy, you can have whatever you want. Whatever you want. And Solomon said, you know what? My dad's been through a lot with you. You remember King David, being attacked by his entire country, having to run and flee, and having a giant spear thrown at him, and just going through a lot of mess. Yep. But in the midst of all that mess, he saw how good God was. In fact, Psalm 3:5 says, I lay down and sleep awake again because the Lord sustains me. That verse was penned by David when he had the entire country of Israel trying to kill him. So that man had a lot of experience with God. He got to say, you know what, God, you're faithful. And he got a lot of wisdom from those experiences because he did a lot of battles, a lot of stuff. Solomon's like, look, man, I haven't been through a lot of that stuff. I don't have the experiences my dad did. So God, here's what I really need. I need wisdom and knowledge so that I can lead your people. I don't want to mess this up. A lot of eyes are on me, especially yours. And God said, I like your style. So much so that God gave him wisdom. He said, you will have wisdom beyond anyone else around you. He had a ton of wisdom. 2,000 pounds, probably more than that. He had a lot of wisdom. And not only that, God said, I'm going to give you wisdom. I'm going to give you wealth. I'm going to give you land. I'm going to give you prosperity. I'm going to give you peace in your land. Peace was huge. His father didn't really have a lot of peace. He was a warrior king. God said, I'm going to give you peace. I'm going to give you all these things. So Solomon was a man who he had a pretty great lifestyle. God took care of him. But then he makes this statement, vanity of vanities. Everything is vanity. What does that even mean? Well, if you've never met me before, hi. My name's Akil Mims, and James Akil Mims, best off last week. And I like to look stuff up, because I don't always know what words mean. And I like to assume sometimes, but I want to understand not just the context, but what the definition of the word is. So we're going to read the definition of vanity. And it says, marked by futility or ineffectualness, actually. Unsuccessful, useless. Having no real value, idle, worthless, to no end, without success or result. So what this guy is saying is, everything in the world is futile. It's useless. It's worthless. There's nothing that's going to come from it. And this is King Solomon, the one who had more. He was a trillionaire. First trillionaire to exist. We've had one recently, but first trillionaire to exist. He had 1,000 wives. Well, concubines and wives. He had a lot of land, a lot of peace. He had a lot of stuff. And this guy is the one who says, you know what? I've got a message that I want you all to understand. Hey, I'm the king, and by the way, everything is futile. Everything is vanity. Well, let's see why he says that. Verses 3 and 4 says, what does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. Well, once again, it sounds like pessimistic. It just sounds like he's depressed. It really does. It sounds like the man who got all this wisdom in the world, all this wisdom in life from God is just depressed. He's like, you know what, God, it's just, it's not good enough. It's not enough. Maybe he is saying that. But he says every single person who works, it does him nothing. It does him no good. What comes from it? In fact, people are born all the time. People die all the time. And, the world just kind of goes on. And God is like, what's the point of it? Why would he be saying this? Well, let's continue on and read. It says verse 5 through 7, the sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind. And on its circuits the wind returns. The streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. That's what he's saying is everything in this world seems to be a cycle. A mundane, monotonous cycle. It just continues on and on and on. I mean, you guys hear about the weather, how we just have water. It's the water cycle. We studied that when we were probably in first grade. The water cycle. You see how the stars, they actually vibrate back and forth, but the planets going around them just goes in a cycle. It seems like the winds, even the currents in the water, everything just seems to be cycle. And so Solomon says, you know what, I've observed a lot, God, and I really feel like everything just keeps on going and going and going, and there's no final destination to it. There's no end to it. There's no point to it all. But why would the guy who people were coming from all different nations to hear his wisdom, to hear his insight, if he talked like this, would you want to go listen to him? No, it sounds depressing. It sounds like, he's just a Debbie Downer. I don't want to be around him. So why would he write this? Well, here's why he wrote it. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. He's saying, guys, look, the world's messed up. Guys and girls, the world is messed up. No matter how much a man or a woman happens to see or perceive, no matter how much they happen to get in this life, the world is messed up. The reason that we look at this world and see, okay, it's just a cycle going on and on and on is because mankind was supposed to do a job that they failed at. The man who asked for wisdom and knowledge was the man who got knowledge, even though the first time knowledge was brought to mankind, it messed everybody up. Because when God created Adam and Eve, he's like, hey guys, cool, here's the job I want you to do. Eve, hang out with Adam. Adam, name everything. Adam, do these things. Adam, by the way, don't do this one thing. Don't do this, just don't do this one thing. Eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because if you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you're going to die. But what did Adam do? He ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And eventually, he died. And so what Solomon is saying is, the whole reason that this world seems monotonous, it seems like it has nothing of value to it, is because in all honesty, we lost sight of what is valuable. We look for our value, we look for purpose in all these different things, and the trees, and the stars, and the sky, and the animals, and the bird, and food, but it's just not enough. It's not good. In fact, he goes into a description of different aspects of life where he said, okay, you know what, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to, and he had his mind, he had his wits about him, and he said, I'm going to pursue this to the best of my ability, to see if it actually will satisfy me, to see if it's enough for me. And what we're going to talk about tonight is wisdom. He says, and I applied my heart to seek and search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. But didn't man want the knowledge of good and evil? So it wasn't that he was like, hey, I want to go against God. I just want to be like God. I want to know these things. I want to understand these things. And Solomon says, you know, I'm spending a lot of time getting to know about this, and I'm not seeing anything come from it. How do you know that? Well, let's jump 3 verses and see what it says. And I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who are over Jerusalem before me. Well, it's not really hard. We're only 2 guys, but anyway. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge, because he asked God for that. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is but a striving after the wind. It's like a wild goose chase. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. This is depressing, y'all. I don't know about you, it's just depressing. What Solomon is saying here is something that's something we really, I don't know if we're not confident enough to say it, but we just don't say it. The more you learn, the more you get to understand, the more you realize, wow, this is a sad situation. This is a hard situation. See, what Solomon says is, God, I ask for wisdom and knowledge so that I could lead your people. But what I came to realize as I was learning how to lead your people was how insufficient I truly am. You can know everything in the world, all the things in the world. You can know how to do everything, right? It's like, I watched it, well, I won't quote that, never mind. I can't do it on camera. But it's like having information as to how, okay, I can write, I can read, and I can write, and I can do great arithmetic. But my tongue has been cut out, and my arms are cut off. So how can I communicate the arithmetic? I don't have the ability to do the arithmetic. I have the knowledge of how it's worked out, of the process to it, but I can no longer communicate effectively how to actually do it, how to perform it. And what Solomon realizes as he goes through his life is, God, I'm seeing these amazing experiences. I'm seeing peace. I'm seeing money come in. I'm seeing all this great stuff happening. I'm building amazing things. I've got more property than anybody else on the planet right now. God, life is really, really good, but at the same time, life isn't what it was meant to be. This life that I'm living is not what you created life to be like. Yes, I have peace. Yes, I have prosperity. Yes, I have people alongside me. I've got a great army, and I've got a God who loves me. But God, this is not what it was supposed to be. The more I learn about who you created us to be, the more I learn about what you created us to do, the more I realize how insufficient we truly are. The more I realize how powerless I truly am. It's fascinating. I sometimes share this story. When my brother was in, I think it was his junior year of college. His junior year, I was a senior. So my last semester of college, and his junior year of college, he was a straight A student, so he was a dean's student. He was doing voiceovers for movies. Like one time I called him because I'm trying to be a good big brother, right? Call and say hello. Say, hey John, what's going on? And I hear a bunch of background noise. What is that? I said, oh, I'm coming back from Alabama. He goes to school in Georgia. What are you doing over there? He said, oh, I was doing a voiceover for a movie. What? He says, when did you do that? I've been doing it for like 2 years. Okay, that's cool. He was sent to Barcelona, Spain on a mandatory trip. Like he was a very successful college student, and he graduated eventually. But there was a point in his life where everything became too much for him. And he had a breakdown. He lost 60 pounds. He would say he wasn't hungry. You could hear his stomach growling. His mind is like he was cracked, and he's still trying to overcome that and still going to counseling for it. But it changed his life. And for me, I'm so used to being the son who, and as I said, I like to look things up. My parents gave me an encyclopedia set, not because they loved me, but because they were tired of me asking questions. So like, look, here you go read it. What did I do? I went and read. And then I say, hey, why does it say this right here? So it didn't really work for them. Ha! But I was the one who was used to knowing how to fix things, and if I didn't know how to fix it, I would easily Google it. Siri didn't exist at the time, so I Google it, look it up. The web browser come, cool, okay, here's how we do this. It didn't mean I knew how to do everything, but I figured out how to get somebody who could do it. But when my brother was going through that situation, I spent a lot more time at home, because I had lived away in college. I came home, and I came to realize that I knew what he was going through. And I knew it was like, you just need Jesus. You just need to know that he's good enough for you. You don't need to be worried about this girl who was terrible to you, who cursed you out and treated you in a terrible way. You don't need to worry about those things. You need to just focus on how good God is. But in the midst of all that, I realized no matter how much I loved him, no matter how much I cared for him, but I wanted the best for him, I was powerless to help my brother. As the oldest son, the one who was taught, and let's just be honest for a moment, the oldest children, firstborns, are usually, they're engineered, because it's not like it's just raising. They're literally engineered. You guys are raised, we're raised to be the best. We're raised so our parents can say, all right, cool, I'm resting everything on you because I can die and everything will be okay. But in that moment I realized, look, I'm not enough. And I should have known that. I'm a Christian, right? I should have known, hey, Akil, you're not enough, you're not God. But in that season of my life, in that situation, I realized very quickly and very vividly that I am not God. No matter how much I might learn, how much I might know, how much I might experience, the experience doesn't give me the ability to help somebody in every situation. And so what Solomon said is, the more you learn about this world, the more you understand, the more knowledge you attain, the more wisdom you attain, the more you realize just how powerless you truly are. I'm going to get my ruler out. Hang on a second. The wisdom that God gave to Solomon brought a better understanding of how messed up the world is. A lot of us pursue education because we're told to by our parents. Or some of us in here just like to learn. I love to learn. There's an old quote by Mark Twain that says, I never let school get in the way of my education. I absolutely love to learn. You look at my browser and I'm researching the weirdest, ask Mike. I research the weirdest stuff sometimes just because somebody says something and it piques my interest or something gets mentioned. I'm like, why does it happen that way? I just want to know. I want to understand. But the more I learn, the more I realize, yeah, it's great to know these things. It's cool. It's helpful. Maybe it'll be good in trivia. But what good is it going to do me to have all this information if I don't have the power to transform a situation? It doesn't. And it takes it a step further. Wisdom brings a reality of just, I'm powerless. That word that Solomon used, we said vexation, could also be substituted for frustration. to be frustrated. To be frustrated basically is to recognize how powerless you are in a situation. For those of you who have families who might be going through a divorce, or siblings who are in rebellion against God, or whatever it might be, teachers who just act a fool in school. Let's be honest. Teachers are people. Teachers are people. They have bad days sometimes. I was a teacher. We have bad days sometimes. Chick-fil-A always helps. Just a little hint. But some people have bad days, and in that moment you realize, you know what, I am powerless to fix this situation. But did Solomon get depressed in the midst of being powerless? No. As you read through Ecclesiastes, and if you want to just know the full answer, read the last chapter. It's always in the last chapter, or read the next chapter. He talks about the young lady he got to pursue and date. He spent a lot more time talking about the young lady than he did about, everything is empty, everything is worthless if you don't have God. So just understand, Solomon wasn't depressed, he's just real. He's real. Sometimes I get in trouble I don't get in trouble, it's more people say, Akil, you need to be nicer. You need to use different words. No. If I use the wrong words, it's because I used the wrong word. I didn't know what the word meant. That happens. Sometimes I Google something and I get one thing and I realize I'm wrong. Like that happened. I used to use the word, I still use a byproduct. I had no idea what it meant until Kimberly told me. I thought I do. I was wrong. But when I say something, I say exactly what I mean. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm not trying to lose the context of what's going on. And Solomon wasn't trying to lose context. He didn't say, hey, you know what? Okay, things are messed up. Things are really bad. No, what he says is, yeah, hey, I'm the king, and I'm the one who's been given wisdom. I'm the one who's been given authority. I'm the one who's been given all these things. And just want to let you guys know, I am trying to lead you in a way that honors God and serves God. But realize this also, no matter what you pursue in this world, it's not going to be enough for you. It's going to be vanity on top of vanities. It says it 4 times in that part. In fact, this book right here, when it says vanity or emptiness, depending on what translation you use, it'll be 33 times that it's used in the Old Testament, or in the entire Old Testament. And the majority of them are in this one book. Because Solomon, or whoever wrote it, but probably Solomon, is wanting you to understand something. Without God in your life, no matter what you pursue, it's going to be empty. No matter what you try to fill yourself with, it's not going to be enough. If it's a relationship with some young man or some young lady, that person's going to let you down. Or you're going to let them down, and you're going to realize, you know what, I'm not good enough for them. If it's your education, there's always going to be somebody more educated than you. I mean, look at where America is. We're at the bottom of the list when it comes to education. We're not a very smart country, let's be honest. If it comes to your finances, always somebody richer than you. Or the economy just goes, poof, tanks. Talk to your grandparents, great-grandparents about that. About the economy when it fell in. Actually, talk to your parents about when there was a housing just pop, and all of a sudden people lost a lot of their money. Your job can be gone in a day. Your career can be gone in a day. There are engineers who spent all this time and energy going into a certain field of study, only to find out 10 years later that some technology was invented that made their job, their career, obsolete. Not, oh, hey, we're going to refine it. No, we don't need you anymore. Sorry. No matter what we decide to put our hope and our dreams in, it's just not enough. But Solomon isn't just saying that, he's also saying this, that whatever you do with your life, you need to understand it's never going to make you feel fulfilled if you don't feel that desire to do that job for the Lord. So me as a minister of the gospel, as a pastor up here, if my desire is simply to grow a massive student ministry and to baptize a lot of students and to be involved in all these campus ministries and make my name famous, it's not going to get enough. Because if I were to achieve all those things, I'll sit back and think to myself, wow, I still don't feel like I've arrived. I still don't feel like it's enough for me. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel satisfied. I love watching these articles or reading articles and watching videos of these athletes when they get to the pinnacle of their success, pinnacle of their field, and then they come to realize, you know what? It's not all it's cracked up to be. But I want to get back to this wisdom thing. Because when you recognize how powerless you truly are, it can be a little frightening. It can be frustrating. It can make you think to yourself, you know what, why try? Why do anything? Why would I even care? If I don't have the ability to change a situation, why would I even try? But the wisest person who walked the earth other than Jesus, that wasn't his mentality. It wasn't, hey, just give up on everything. It's all empty. It's all worthless. He says, oh, it's worthless without God. But the reason he didn't give up on it is because he recognized that, you know what? My God is in control. He wasn't comfortable with every situation. Guarantee he wasn't comfortable with every situation. But he was confident. He was confident in the midst of being powerless, in the midst of feeling powerless. Because if you're a Christian, let's be honest, the same power that actually allowed Jesus Christ to not only die on the cross, but also be raised back into eternity, to walk with God forever, is the same power that's inside of you. So you're not really powerless. But when you feel powerless, when you feel like you can't do anything, you have no ability, you might be uncomfortable, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be uncomfortable at all. But are you confident in that situation and knowing that, you know, well, that was weird. You know what? No matter what happens, my God's good. My God's on the throne. Earlier today, I was just hanging out with Pastor Jared and talking. He was talking about discipleship and how he wants to be better at being a discipler and being a leader and that kind of stuff. I was like, bro, you do realize that the Great Commission says, go therefore, make disciples of all the nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He says, go make disciples, right? So that's like the start part. So don't lose me. Go make disciples, baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe everything that I commanded you. And lo, I'll be with you, what? Even until the end of the age. Go and make disciples, and I'll be with you to the end of the age. Go and make disciples, and I will not forsake you. You're not alone. You might feel like sometimes that you don't have the ability, you don't have the strength, you don't have the knowledge, the insight to work in a situation. And then you might feel like, I know exactly what needs to take place. I know exactly how to do this, but I can't do it. I know I can't do it. And in that situation, can you say with assuredness that, you know what, I can't do it, but my God can. I can't handle this, but my God can. You know what? That's enough for me. I'm going to do as much as I can, and then God, the rest is in your hands. Because if you can say that, if you can say that, then you truly know who God is. You truly experience who God is in your life. But if you can't say that, then you might be playing religion. You might be playing Christianity and say, oh yeah, God, you're awesome. And yeah, I'm going to raise my hands and everybody else is doing it. And I'm going to act this way on Sunday or Wednesday, and then I'm a little crazy during the week, but it's okay because God, I'm covered in grace. Yeah, grace. I just want to remind you of something that in the New Testament it says that Christ is Lord. When will it says he's our Savior? Way more times. And that Solomon's confidence didn't come from the fact that God would forgive him. It came from the fact that God was in control and that God was all powerful. He recognized just who God was and said, you know what? I'm confident in who you are. But if you're not confident in the midst of a powerless situation, then you probably don't know who God is. Or you haven't seen God come through for you. It's amazing how we see in Scripture, the Old and New Testament, these amazing stories of God coming through and doing these miraculous things. People are like, my God is a healer, my God is a redeemer, my God is amazing, my God is faithful. The reason they say my God is faithful is because they've seen God come through in situations where they couldn't do it on their own. And so I wonder, have you seen God come through in a situation for you where you recognize, I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. Because I got so many stories. So many. We don't have time for them. Well, actually, I do, because I don't have to go anywhere. You don't, though. Your parents want to take you somewhere. But there's so many times in my life where I saw God come through and do something that I said to myself, yeah, I couldn't do that, God. This is evidence of the fact that not only are you real, but you actually care about your people. The fact that my brother was able to go back to school and get his mind right and actually graduate from school. The fact that my parents didn't lose their minds and didn't just fall apart because of my brother coming home and having all these issues. Because when you bring a child home who doctors think has depression or schizophrenia, it causes issues, y'all. When that person is bigger than your parents, like my brother's the same height as me, and we're both stronger than our dad. We were training martial arts when we were little, and he would also get really aggressive and really upset. So he would snap like that, then he'd say, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. But in that midst of that snapping, it's very dangerous. And I saw somehow God came through in that situation, because I wasn't always there. Well, the God that I serve is good. And I'm confident in the fact that no matter how powerless I might feel, my God is still powerful. So I want to pray for you all today that you would recognize what it means to serve a powerful God. Not just someone who's belligerent, someone who has all this power and says, you know what, I do whatever I want. But a God who says, I'm doing what it takes to redeem a broken people. I'm doing what it takes to bring people who are dead in their transgressions into newness of life. And the way he did it was laying his life down on the cross, picking back up 3 days later. But what he's still doing is saving us from ourselves, saving us from our desires, from our insecurities, from our fears, from our wants. He saves us from ourselves all the time.